12 spine-chilling Wendy-esque secrets exposed. Terrifying encounters that haunted me all night. The bells jangled as Sarah stepped into the fluorescent-lit Wendy-s, a beacon cutting through the oppressive darkness of the night. It was just another shift in a small Midwestern town, but something ineffable hung heavy in the air, a tension she couldn't shake. With each passing minute, the familiar sounds of fries sizzling and soda machines bubbling felt more like ominous echoes than comforting background noise. Tonight, it was different. Tonight, dread seeped into the fabric of her old-fashioned diner dreams. The hours ticked by slowly, shadows creeping through the drive-thru. Pale ghostly whispers danced around the speaker box, sending ripples of unease down her spine. The customers, her neighbors, shared bizarre tales, but their laughter echoed hollowly in the sterile restaurant. Just late-night jitters, they'd say, shrugging off her wide eyes and trembling hands. But a growing sense of dread loomed over her every move, whispering secrets she refused to ignore. Suddenly, the night took a sinister turn. Josh, a bright-eyed coworker, took an order that sent chills down Sarah's arms. The customer, a dark figure draped in shadows, vanished without a sound, leaving behind only an all-consuming silence. Moments later, Josh disappeared too, swallowed whole as if the very ground had opened beneath him. Sarah's heart raced, a furious drumbeat in her chest. Where was Josh? And why did no one seem to care? Whispers behind the friars grew louder, melding with her fraying nerves. The local townsfolk had always trusted Mr. Keller, the enigmatic manager, with an unsettling grin. Why was he watching the late-night crew with such a keen eye? As the clock struck midnight, a chill swept through the Wendy-s, and the atmosphere thickened, the air feeling saturated with something darkly tangible. Just then, a line of cars snaked endlessly through the drive-thru. Faces emerged at the window, ghastly masks of familiarity blending into the foreground. Recognition faded away, replaced by vacant stares and unnatural smiles. "What's going on?" she whispered under her breath, trembling as she served the meals, each order a reminder that nothing was as it seemed. Her pulse echoed in her ears. She felt like a stranger trapped in her own skin. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." With each order that rolled in, her grip tightened on the register, the nights of greasy fries suddenly turning treacherous. The weight of an unseen threat pressed down on her, distorting reality into a labyrinth of paranoia. Were they all in on it? Conversations flowed through the air like poison, reaching into her memories of whispered tales from her mother about darkness hidden in plain sight. Was she really seeing the shadows slip past the windows, or was it just exhaustion playing tricks on her? "Tonight's special?" she said, forcing a smile despite the quaking in her chest. But as the words left her lips, the atmosphere shifted. Mr. Keller sauntered over, his cruel smile widening, and the room froze. A sudden sense of anticipation filled the Wendy-s, a thick fog of tension that promised something terrible was about to unfold. Her breath hitched in her throat as she faced him. Would she understand the sinister truth lurking behind the cheerful facade of her childhood haunt? Or would she, too, vanish into the night, just another secret buried under the layers of grease and conspiracy? The darkness drew closer, and Sarah knew none of them could be trusted, not anymore. The air crackled around her, thickening with every heartbeat. Mr. Keller's eyes sparkled with a knowing glint, as if he were savoring a dark pleasure. "You've been so busy tonight, Sarah," he said, his tones syrupy sweet. "But do you really know what's happening here?" Panic surged through her veins. The question hung in the air like a blade. She felt it press down on her, sending icy fingers gripping her spine. "What do you mean?" she gasped, swallowing hard. "Everyone's just hungry, and I mean that in more ways than one," he replied, his smile cutting wide. Something shifted in his gaze, the warmth of familiarity dipped in cold malice. The people in the restaurant, their eyes now seemed hollow, lifeless, as if they were shells of who they once were. Her instincts fired off alarms, and she pushed herself away from the register, backing towards the kitchen. There was no one there. Just silence, oppressive and filled with dread. The buzzing overhead fluorescent lights flickered, casting uncertain shadows that danced like demons on the walls. "Where's Josh?" she whispered, her throat dry as a desert. "I wouldn't concern yourself with him," Mr. Keller said, stepping closer. "He made a choice, just like everyone else here." "What choice?" A swirl of thoughts made her dizzy. There was an urgency to leave, to get out before she too was swallowed whole. The drive-through line never seemed to end, headlights illuminating faces that appeared more grotesque with each second, like the masks the kids wore for Halloween, yet filled with something far more sinister. "Stay with me, Sarah," Keller beckoned, extending a hand. "You wouldn't want to miss this." Without thinking, she bolted through the kitchen door, the sound of her shoes echoing off the tiles. Her heart thundered in her chest, each beat warning her of the danger lurking behind. She darted past grease-stained pans, the smell of burnt oil stinging her nostrils, but she kept moving. Footsteps echoed behind her, deliberate and fast. A scream clawed at her throat, but she forced it down. She needed to think. A rusty door in the corner caught her attention. It led to the basement. She flung it open and stumbled down the staircase, the rancid scent of decay flooding her senses. The darkness enveloped her as she reached the bottom, so thick it felt suffocating. It took a moment for her eyes to adjust. Flickering bulbs revealed what looked like storage, with old boxes stacked high and discarded uniforms hanging from iron hooks. Shadows loomed, stretching and warping, twisting into grotesque shapes. From behind her, she heard a laugh, light, airy, entirely wrong. "Did you think you could escape?" Mr. Keller's voice rang out, eerily echoing in the narrow space. "No one ever really leaves." Fear clawed at her throat. "Why are you doing this?" she cried, spinning around to face him. "Because this is how we survive," he grinned, revealing teeth that seemed sharper, more predatory. "And soon, you'll understand too. You'll see that we're all part of something much bigger." Just then, the lights flickered even more violently, and Sarah caught glimpses of movement in the corners of the basement. Familiar faces hovered just beyond the reach of the light, their mouths stretching into monstrous grins. Could it be? Were they waiting for something? For her? Terror surged through her, urging her legs to run again, but there was nowhere to escape. She stood paralyzed, her breath fogging the cold air as the realization crashed down like a wave. What had Josh gotten into? What exactly did their hunger mean? In that moment, as her heart raced louder than ever, the dim light flickered one last time before plunging her into complete darkness. But the heaviness of silence broke when a scream rose beyond anything she could fathom. It was close. Too close. And then, all at once, the familiar bell from the register dinged in her mind, signaling an order. But this time, it wasn't tea for food, it was for a life. As the echoes of her own heartbeat drowned out everything else, a chilling truth gripped her: she was the menu. What would she choose to serve up next? Sarah took a deep breath, but what awaited her in the darkness was more terrifying than she'd ever imagined. The darkness wrapped around Sarah like a suffocating blanket, every breath a struggle as the air thickened with tension. She could hear the soft shuffle of feet, their rhythm deliberate, circling her like a predator closes in on prey. Her heart thundered in her chest, a frantic reminder that she was alive, yet so desperately close to death. "Did you hear that?" A voice broke through the shadows. Recognizable, yet twisted. It was Josh, but not the Josh she knew. There was something hollow, an emptiness that tainted his words. "They're waiting for you." She strained to catch a glimpse of him, desperate for solace in the chaos. The outline of his figure flickered against the weak glow of the basement lights. "Sarah, you have to understand. There's no way out." His voice was louder now, filled with a haunting urgency. "It's about survival. Just like him who?" she rasped, the fear pouring from her like sweat. "What do you mean?" "Mr. Keller," he promised. "We can all be part of something powerful. But it comes at a cost." The laughter echoed again, chiming maliciously around her. "Oh, don't you see, Sarah?" Keller's smooth voice rolled like waves, crashing in on her sanity. "They've chosen their fate. It's beautiful, really. The hunger unites us, satisfies us. You're simply the last piece to the puzzle." The basement filled with the faces of those who had once been happy, vibrant beings. Their eyes were now dark, consumed by a yearning that twisted their expressions into grotesque masks of desire. "Josh, fight it! Please!" she implored, her voice shaking. She took a step forward, her hands reaching out as if to pull him back from this abyss. But he stood frozen, a vacant look on his face, just a shell of himself, lost to the need gnawing at him. "No, Sarah," his voice dwindled, echoing in defeat as another set of footsteps joined the circle tightening around her. "Join us. Give in. It'll be freeing." The shadows drew nearer, and panic ignited within her. Adrenaline surged as she swiftly turned, searching for the door she entered through. All at once, smothering dread washed over her. The basement had changed, reshaped like a living entity. The path to freedom seemed to morph, closing in like a vice. "Run!" she screamed, flinging herself against the wall, her fingertips grazing the cold metal of a cooler. A sudden thought struck her grimly. What if it contained the remains of the last victims? What had Keller and his people done to satisfy their insatiable hunger? "Sarah, please!" Josh's voice dragged her back to his haunting plea. "Stay. You belong with us now." Fury and fear collided in her chest. She ripped open the cooler, and a rancid smell assaulted her senses, overwhelming every rational thought. Inside lay flesh, the remnants of once living beings, now just offerings to the hunger that kept these people, these monsters alive. Desperation flooded through her with the force of a tidal wave. She could not let herself become a part of this. With renewed strength, she turned back, racing deeper into the shadows, ignoring the cries for her to join their unholy fellowship. The figures scattered to block her escape, their hands reaching. She felt a cold grip on her arm. "Where do you think you're going?" The whisper slithered against her ear, dripping with malice. Keeping her gaze focused, she grabbed a metal pipe from the ground, swinging it wildly, striking anything that came too close. With every backup, she pressed onward, her pulse pounding in her ears. A door appeared in the distance, light spilling through the small frame like a promise. But as she rushed toward it, a chorus of wails filled the air, echoing off the walls as if the darkness itself cried out in desperation. She barreled through the door, slamming it shut behind her. The light blinded her momentarily before her eyes adjusted. But when they did, she stood in an empty alley behind the restaurant, an alley thick with fog, the banality of the outside world contrasting sharply with the horror she had just escaped. Breathing heavily, she turned to face the door, her heart still racing. Was it really over? Or was this just another way for them to draw her back into the nightmare? As she took a hesitant step away, a chilling laugh echoed from within, and for just a moment she thought she heard Josh's voice join in, beckoning her to return. She stumbled back, panic gripping her stomach. But what had really happened to them? As the icy fingers of fear wrapped around her throat, she knew she had to find out. She had to end this before it swallowed her whole, before the hunger could reach beyond those walls again. What sacrifices would she have to make to discover the truth? And would she dare to step back into the shadows? A chill swept through the alley, creeping into her skin and wrapping itself around her bones. The laughter echoed from behind the door, becoming a taunting reminder that danger lurked just beyond the threshold. Sarah took a deep breath, forcing herself to shake off the dread that settled like ice in her belly. She couldn't stand still, she had to move. The fog was thick, swirling in twisting tendrils that seemed alive, soaking up the light from the flickering street lamp in the distance. It was a world turned monochrome, where every shadow felt heavy with what she had just escaped. Her mind raced. Where could she go? Should she find help? But who would believe her? Nobody would understand the depths of horror lurking in that basement. The thought of returning, of stepping deeper into that hell, made her skin crawl. Yet, what if this was all part of a larger trap? What if they already knew she was out here, waiting for her to grow weak and vulnerable. She froze, scanning the alley for any sign of movement. The air felt loaded, as if holding its breath along with her. Then, she remembered the restaurant. It had been bustling with life just hours ago. Familiar faces, laughter, food. It felt like a lifetime ago. Slowly, she pivoted and made her way toward the street, her heart hammering like a frightened beast inside her chest. Each step echoed in the silence, a countdown to what might be waiting for her. As she reached the edge of the alley, a sudden noise made her jump, an engine rumbling to life, the low growl of a truck around the corner. She darted into the street, desperate for the warmth of human presence, but the truck roared past without stopping. The anguish of isolation wrapped around her, shivering through her bones like a forgotten memory. Time seemed to stretch in the quiet, and doubts gnawed at her mind. What if Josh and the others weren't just victims, but something worse? Creatures of her past disguised as her friends, their humanity stripped away by a hunger for something she couldn't quite grasp. Suddenly, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket, shattering the stillness. She fumbled to get it out, her hands shaking, and saw a message pop up. "Where are you? They're coming for you." It was from Lisa, her best friend. The urgency in her words sent a jolt of adrenaline through her veins. But how did Lisa know? Had they found her? Panic twisted, cutting her breath short. Before she could respond, a figure emerged from the fog. For a moment Sarah's heart soared, hope blossoming until she recognized the silhouette. It was Josh, his expression twisted with something dark, hunger glinting in his eyes. He stepped closer, the shadows almost using him as a pawn, wrapping around him like a cloak. "Why are you out here, Sarah?" he asked, a sinister sweetness lining his voice. "You're not safe, come with me." The memory of his laughter in the basement echoed in her mind. The voices of those lost sang in her ear. "No!" she shouted, taking a step back, adrenaline surging through her muscles. "You're not Josh. You're one of them. That's where you're wrong." His smile was too wide, too full of darkness. "I'm more than you'll ever know now. And so will you if you just give in." The alley loomed behind her, the door was right there, that conduit back into the hell she'd just escaped, while ahead was nothing but the fog that could swallow her whole. "Stay away!" she screamed, scrambling backward, not caring about the noise. She glanced around, searching for an exit. And then it came to her, a flicker of light from the side of the restaurant, a small window partially open. The only way to go was through him, or back into that darkness. Her breath caught, heart racing, as she broke into a sprint toward the window, her only chance to escape what couldn't be real. Yet as she scrambled up, she felt cold fingers grasp her ankle, pulling her down. "You can't run from us." Josh's voice dripped with overt power, a haunting reminder of everything she'd fought against. His presence loomed like an executioner, one who knew she was all but trapped. But still, she clawed her way through. Would she break free? Could she abandon all hope of saving him and the others? The struggle intensified, and in that moment, as she felt him pulling her back, a chilling question echoed in her mind. Was there more to this hunger than just survival? As she clawed her way free, she understood something darker lay beneath the surface of her own reality. What sacrifices might she need to face the truth? And was she strong enough to confront the darkness that hungered for her life? The moment Sarah broke free from Josh's grip, she plummeted onto the cold pavement. Her heart pounded like a drum in her ears as she scrambled upright, the cold air burning her lungs. The flicker of light from the window shimmered, tantalizingly close, her only beacon of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. "Sarah!" Josh's voice echoed sinisterly, rising like a storm. "You can't hide forever." The shadows in the alley shifted, twisting and coiling, as if alive, smothering any warmth the street lamp could offer. Fear clawed at her throat. Ignoring the pain in her ankle where he had caught her, she lunged toward the window, each step a desperate prayer. The twisted metal of the frame cut into her skin, but she squeezed through, shards of hope mingling with terror. Inside, the restaurant was cloaked in a haunting stillness, the lively energy of earlier a distant memory. Tables were overturned, chairs scattered. A broken glass lay on the floor, a cruel reflection of her own fractured reality. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she pressed herself against the wall, praying the shadows wouldn't follow her. The laughter she had once found comforting transformed into nightmarish echoes, taunting her from every corner. "Get out! Get out!" a voice shrieked in her head, drowning out the clearer memories of warmth and friendship. She took a cautious step forward, listening for any sign of life, desperate to find Lisa. A group of her friends wouldn't be too far, would they? But as she ventured deeper, the silence grew heavy. Low whispers coiled through the air, insidious and familiar. "Sarah! Where are you?" It was Lisa, but the urgency in her tone was lost in an undertone as chilling as death itself. The sound lured her, a siren call beckoning her deeper into the darkened restaurant. She zipped toward the kitchen, where the cool tile underfoot felt more secure than the world outside. "Lisa!" she shouted, her voice raw, choked with fear. A flash of movement caught her eye. She turned to see Lisa huddled by the fridge, her face smeared with something dark. Was it blood? Sarah's heart twisted. "What happened? We need to know," Lisa croaked, fear narrowing her eyes. "We can't go back. They're everywhere." "What do you mean?" Sarah asked, dread pooling in her stomach as more shadows crept into her vision. In that split second, the kitchen door slammed open. Sarah gasped, the air around her turning thick and suffocating. A tall figure loomed in the doorway, smiling with a hunger that made her blood run cold. "Did you think you could escape?" It was Josh again, his voice dripping with mockery. "You should have surrendered. Now you both will join us." The room spun. Shadows poured from the corners, pooling like ink, ready to drown them both. Sarah's instincts screamed to run, to flee from the darkness suffocating the light, but fear rooted her to the spot. She glanced at Lisa. The terror in her friend's eyes mirrored her own. "Run!" Lisa shouted, the last of her strength flooding her voice. But where? The door was blocked, the windows sealed against the world. Suddenly, Sarah felt something shift behind her. The back exit. Without a second thought, she spun around, grabbing Lisa's hand with a vice-like grip. They stumbled backward through the kitchen, crashing into rusty pots and pans, as Josh and the shadows closed in. "Let us go!" she screamed, adrenaline surging as they pushed through the door. A single staggered heartbeat of hope surged through Sarah as they burst into the alley, but the threatening fog was waiting, eager to engulf them both. But the question loomed larger than ever. Would escaping mean they would simply run into another trap? And as they dashed into the unknown, one horrifying thought remained: could anyone truly escape the darkness that craved them? They raced toward the streetlight, shadows snapping at their heels, breathless with fear and uncertainty. But what if the real danger was lurking even closer than they thought? The alley swallowed them whole, darkness pressing in with a chilling embrace. Each heartbeat felt like a countdown to doom as Sarah and Lisa sprinted toward the streetlight, its flickering glow casting long, distorted shadows on the ground. "Keep moving," Sarah urged, her mind racing. Thoughts of Josh and everything he could do washed over her like a cold wave. She shot a glance back, and panic surged within her. Josh was just an outline against the inky black behind, a grinning specter. "Sarah, look out!" Lisa's warning broke Sarah's focus. She stumbled, barely catching herself on a damp dumpster. The foul smell of rotten food clawed at her senses, but there was no time to contemplate. They couldn't stop. "Go!" Sarah yelled, pulling Lisa along. They careened around the corner, desperate, gasping for breath. There had to be a way out. A path leading to safety. The street felt eerie, too quiet, as if it held its breath along with them. The shadows danced along the walls of the buildings, stretching as they approached whatever lay ahead. Behind them, the sound of footsteps drew closer, relentless. "Do you hear that?" Lisa panted, stopping to listen. The footsteps didn't sound like Josh's. They were heavier, more pervasive. They echoed like a chorus of doom, filling the space with dread. "Keep running," Sarah urged, pulling at Lisa's arm. There was an old park up ahead, a labyrinth of benches and trees that could hide them, but whether it was a refuge or another trap was beyond her. It could also be a way for Josh to corner them. They burst into the park, gasping and scanning for any place to hide. The shadows enveloped them, the trees swaying, whispering secrets of torment. Lisa ducked behind a large oak, practically dragging Sarah with her. "Did we lose him?" she whispered, her voice trembling. I don't know," Sarah replied, dread tightening its grip around her heart. Just then, a flicker of movement caught her eye. Something slithered beneath the dim light of the park, creeping closer. It wasn't Josh. It was a figure, small yet sinister, lurking in the darkness. They could hear it dragging along the ground. The shadows danced once more as it drew nearer, revealing itself. A child? No. A twisted imitation of one. Its face was pale, eyes sunken in black, a smile stretched across its lips like a grotesque mask. "Are you lost?" it croaked, voice cracking like a broken doll. "Get away from us!" Sarah yelled, scrambling backward. But the creature didn't move away. Instead, it cocked its head, a sickly grin lighting up its gaunt features. "Wanna play?" Sarah's chest tightened. This wasn't just some lost kid, it embodied the essence of nightmare. "Lisa, we have to," but Lisa was frozen, staring at the thing as if it cast a spell. "What does it want?" "Run!" Sarah screamed again, just as Josh roared into the park, shadows swirling around him like a cloak of malice. "What's wrong, ladies?" he mocked, towering over them. "You thought you could escape with that little trick?" The creature turned to Josh, eyes glinting with something sinister, and Sarah realized the shadows weren't just a barrier or darkness, they were alive. They writhed and pulsed, feeding off the fear hanging in the air like fog. The ground beneath them trembled, as if shaking with the weight of the horror coming to life. "Together, forever," the childlike creature whispered, its voice merging with the shadows, weaving a chilling chant that sent shivers through Sarah's bones. "I can't breathe," Lisa gasped, pain creeping into her eyes. They were being pulled in, deeper into a nightmare without escape. As they prepared to face the growing chaos, a flash of light erupted from Lisa's pocket, a cell phone. "Is it too late?" Sarah thought, weighing their next move as the darkness tightened around them. But as she reached for it, the question echoed violently, what if it wasn't light that awaited them, but more shadows, more deceit? "Lisa, we need to fight," Sarah shouted, turning back to face the darkness. But the sentiment felt thin against the gathering terror. Chaos tightened its grip, and as they faced the looming presence of Josh and the creature, what truth would emerge from their next desperate move? The shadows thickened around them, pulsating and writhing, growing hungrier with every passing second. Sarah's heart raced as dread suffocated her breath. The creature, with its ghoulish grin, stepped closer, and she could see the glint of something sharp hidden behind its crooked smile. "Keep it together," she urged herself, but the fight was draining. Lisa gripped Sarah's arm, eyes wide with fear, hinting at a fleeting moment of clarity. "What if we just run?" "Where?" Sarah retorted, panic boiling. "There's nowhere to go." They were trapped. The park had transformed into a dark abyss, every direction swallowed by the night. Josh's laughter echoed through the trees, a mocking cadence that sent waves of nausea rolling through her. "You think you can run forever? I'll always find you." His silhouette loomed like a nightmare, still and unyielding. The creature's voice harmonized with Josh's. Together, forever it danced in the shadows, a nightmarish duet. Drawing closer, Sarah had to act. "Let us distract them," she hissed to Lisa, a desperate glimmer of a plan forming. "We can split up. Get to the nearest exit." Lisa shook her head with wide eyes, the idea horrified her. "What if we get caught? Then we'll fight." Sarah breathed through grit teeth, heart hammering against her ribcage. The shadows pulled at them, whispering promises of oblivion. Lisa hesitated, her instincts pitted against the terror spilling from the darkness. "Okay, but how?" "On three. We scream and run separate ways." There was no time for debate, no time for fear. It was a wild chance, but it was the only one they had. 1, 2, 3. the words tumbled out, echoing through the night, a primal scream as both girls tore in opposite directions. As Sarah bolted away from the horror, the shadows seemed to stretch toward Lisa. "No!" she shouted, feeling the weight of the darkness trying to pull them apart. Her eyes darted around. The park was a labyrinth in the dim light, trees loomed like sentinels, cloaked in shadows. She could hear the rustle of the creature, hot on her heels. Behind her, Josh roared with laughter. "You think splitting will save you? You're just feeding the darkness." Sarah glanced back for a moment. The creature laughed, snarled, its face morphing into a twisted reflection of her own fear. "Forget her, just keep running." The shadows reacted, rising up beneath her feet, threatening to trip her, dragging at her legs. She pushed harder, desperation burning in her lungs, every nerve screaming as she stumbled. A glimmer of light flickered ahead. An opening? A way out? Was her mind playing tricks on her, or was there salvation to be had? The sense of hope propelled her forward. Crashing through the brush, she barreled towards the light, but the shadows stretched claw-like toward her. The creature's laughter mixed with Josh's howl. Fear and malice danced. Then, a scream erupted in the distance. "Lisa!" Dread coiled tightly around Sarah's heart. "No! Lisa!" She doubled back, torn between the instinct to survive and her bond of loyalty. Each step felt heavier, each breath pulled tighter. The shadows shifted, a dark cloud swirling with chaos. Together, forever they chanted, drawing closer, swallowing the light. What would she choose? The light promised escape, but what would it cost? As she hesitated, torn with uncertainty, the ground trembled. The pull of the darkness intensified, grasping at her ankles. With every second, the distance between Sarah and the horrors grew narrower. In that very moment, something shifted within the shadows, a deeper darkness surged forth, breaking reality itself. What lay in that blackened void? An ending, a beginning, or something far worse? The light flickered, began to fade, and a chilling whisper echoed from the depths. "Come, play with us." Sarah felt ice in her veins, uncertainty and fear curling into a single resolve. Which path would she take? The burdens of choice bore down. And then the ground erupted with a blinding flash, sending Sarah sprawling as chaos unfurled beyond her reach. What would emerge from that darkness? Would she be strong enough to confront what awaited her? The explosion of light sent Sarah tumbling backward, landing hard against the ground. She gasped, breath short and frantic, her heart racing like a trapped bird. The shadows around her writhed, their whispers escalating into a cacophony, demanding her submission. Pain shot through her shoulder, but she pushed herself up, adrenaline flooding her veins, reminding her to move. The blinding light flared before her, illuminating a space that had previously been cloaked in darkness. It shimmered, pulsating, but as she blinked, the brightness flickered, revealing twisted figures lurking just beyond the edge of illumination. They lurked where the light dared not penetrate, a chilling paradox, bursting with intent. A hostile energy rushed at her, the taste of fear thick in the air. "Lisa!" she screamed. The name hung in the night, trembling on her lips like a prayer. Her pulse hammered in response to the enveloping darkness that encircled her. The shadows moaned, a low keening sound that made her skin crawl. They tightened their grip, now crawling closer, as if wanting to smother the light with a dark embrace. What if she could just outrun them? The idea felt ludicrous but liberating. Sarah took a shaky step forward, testing her resolve against the treacherous ground. Glancing back, a tendril of shadow snaked toward her, slithering along the grass, eager to pull her back into the eternal void. She deftly dodged, heart thumping louder than the distant laughter that continued to echo. It was the kind of laughter that twisted a knife in her gut, reminding her of every moment of helplessness she felt since the game began. Fighting panic, she forced her legs to move. She stumbled toward the last place she and Lisa had seen each other, the laughter louder now, cruel and mocking. "Run, Sarah! Save yourself!" echoed her friend's terrified voice in her mind, but she couldn't leave her. Not when fear clawed at her, whispering that whatever darkness had engulfed Lisa loomed ever closer, waiting to take the rest of her. Breaking into a sprint, she could feel the darkness chasing her, tasting her fear, and feeding on it. The trees roared overhead, their gnarled branches reaching for her, appearing like skeletal hands ready to drag her down. Just ahead, the last shimmering light shone vibrant and enticing, but the shadows clawed at her heels, coaxing her to turn back. The laughter morphed, echoing more raucously, blending with anguished screams. "You think you can escape?" It was Josh's voice, distorted and lingering. She forced herself to focus, to put one foot in front of the other, tearing through the terror that begged her to quit. Moments of doubt pricked her mind. Had Lisa already succumbed to the darkness? A flicker of movement caught her eye. Was it a shape in the shadows? Sarah steadied herself, bracing for whatever emerged. She sensed a figure, a silhouette forming amidst the chaos, a woman caught in a dance with the shadows. "Lisa!" She screamed again, trying to push through the growing dread that seized her throat. The shadows pulsed, responding, hungry for this confrontation. They twisted into a shape that resembled both her friend and the creature, overlapping into one. She must choose before the darkness swept her in. Suddenly, the figure lunged, and panic surged anew. With every ounce of strength left in her body, she leaped toward the light, the screams growing louder, drowning out her thoughts. She felt the brush of cold fingers on her neck as she reached for the flickering doorway. But the light began to fade, flickering desperately, the shadows tightening their grip around her. "Stay with us," they hissed, the sound drenched in seduction and despair. What if the light went out completely? Would she have the strength to fight back, or would she lose everything? As she lunged forward, the last glimmer of hope slipped through her fingers, and she was left with only darkness. What awaited her on the other side? Would she find her friend, or become one with the shadows? The darkness enveloped Sarah, a suffocating weight that pressed against her chest. It was alive in a way that sent icy tendrils of fear spiraling into her core. She gasped, the air thick and stale, as she found herself pulled deeper into a realm of muted sorrow. The light was gone, leaving nothing but the oppressive gloom behind. Shivers racked her body. "Lisa," she called out again, her voice thick and shaky. But the name dissolved into the void, swallowed whole by the shadows. The mocking laughter faded, replaced by a soft, distorted echo that whispered secrets too ghastly to hear plainly. It crept under her skin, igniting a primal dread that set every nerve on edge. Movement flickered to her left. She turned, heart hammering, eyes straining to pierce the haziness. A shape materialized, barely visible, a small, hunched figure drawing closer. "Who is there?" Sarah croaked, panic clawing at her throat. The figure stumbled forward, moving in an erratic rhythm that sent terror surging through her veins. As it drew near, she recognized him, Josh. But twisted. His features were distorted, eyes wide and hollow, a predator gazing at its prey. "Sarah!" he hissed, lips cracking into a smile that did not meet his eyes. "It's so much better here, you should stay forever. Get away from me!" She backed away, stumbling over the uneven ground, breath quickening as he advanced. Shadows writhed beneath his feet, roiling, whispering promises that made her skin crawl. She wanted to run, but her legs felt like lead. "What happened to you?" "The game never ends," he sneered, voice layered with eerie echoes that sent chill waves down her spine. Suddenly, a sound cut through the murky silence, a sob. Sarah turned, dread pooling in her stomach. It was no mere sound, it pierced the darkness like a siren. "Lisa!" she cried, heart racing anew. The sobbing echoed, bouncing off the invisible walls of her nightmare chamber. "Help me, please!" The voice was a feeble whisper, undeniably hers. "Where are you?" Sarah urged, scanning the darkness, desperate for any sign of her friend. "I'm here," the voice trembled, drawing closer, but the shadows snapped back, as if in afraid retreat. "They want to let me go." "No! No! I want to leave you!" The darkness swirled, and Sarah plunged deeper into the depth. The air thickened, stinging her lungs, but the thought of leaving Lisa was unbearable. More figures emerged from the shadows, faces twisted, mouths agape with silent screams. They reached for her, fingers elongated and grotesque, whispering her name in taunts that sent her heart into her throat. "Stay!" they urged, voices blending into a haunting melody. "Join us, forget what you were, become one with the night." The shadows slithered closer, crawling beneath her clothes, wrapping around her limbs, urging her into their icy embrace. Sarah felt the pull, a magnetic draw that threatened to overwhelm her will. But through all the chaos, that haunting sob still echoed in her mind, punctuating the darkness with despair. "Sarah, where are you?" Lisa's voice weaved through the chaos, clear and desperate. She took a step back and felt another shadow release an agonizing shriek. It echoed in her ears, grinding against her sanity. She had to fight. She had to push through. With renewed determination, she shouted, "I'm coming! Hold on!" But as she pushed toward the sound of her friend, visions of Josh and the ghostly figures began to swirl, their cries melding into a terrifying cacophony. "Stay, it will be better, join us, forget." Every whisper pulled her deeper into the void, a chasm of despair. Panic unfurled as she felt her grip on reality loosen. "Lisa!" Her voice broke, melded with the shadows. When did the space around her grow so heavy? She could barely breathe, like the shadows were actively weighing her down. What if she didn't reach Lisa? What if she too began to join the cacophony of shadowed souls? Suddenly, a flash illuminated the darkness. A mere spark, but like a beacon in a storm. Sarah blinked, heart racing. What had she just seen? A flicker of hope amidst the despair. "Sarah! Please!" The scream breached the surface of her panicked mind. Lisa's voice pulled her through the haze, reeling her back toward the light blinking into existence. But was it true light? Or more shadows disguised as salvation? Her heart sank as she stood on the edge, knowing the leap of faith required. Which path would she choose? Would she reach Lisa, or would the darkness claim her completely? As the darkness pulsed menacingly around Sarah, she steadied herself, the weight of despair clinging to her like a shroud. The flicker of light seemed to call to her, a siren song of hope lingering through the shadows. But could she trust it? With her heart racing, she took a tentative step forward, her mind echoing with Lisa's desperate cries. "Don't let the darkness take you, Sarah! Hold on!" The essence of Lisa's voice wrapped around her, becoming a lifeline in this sea of terror. "I'm coming! I'm here!" she shouted back, the strength of her voice rising defiantly against the melodic whispers of the shadows. She pushed forward, fighting against the oppressive gloom that seemed intent on dragging her back into despair. As she darted toward the light, the shadows writhed and sparked, crackling like electricity, eager to swallow her whole. "Stay with us, Sarah!" they hissed, a sinister laughter reverberating off unseen walls. Mustering every ounce of courage, she refused to let fear dictate her fate. "I want to be part of your nightmare!" she screamed, her voice resonating against the cold, damp air. Shadows lunged at her, but she danced aside, weaving through the chaotic mass toward the trembling beacon. Another surge of icy despair threatened to engulf her, but she pushed through, adrenaline fueling her resolve. "Lisa, I'm close," she called again, throwing every piece of her energy into the effort. The flicker became brighter, illuminating more of the shadows. She could feel a pull, urging her beyond the threshold that separated her from her friend. "Sarah! Hurry!" Lisa's voice was closer now, tinged with pain but alive with fight. With a burst of speed, she leaped toward the light, an explosion of warmth crashing over her as she breached the threshold. She was back in the world, standing in the warmth of dawn's early light. The park shimmered around her, a stark contrast to the darkness she had just escaped. But where was Lisa? "Sarah!" A familiar voice pierced through the remnants of her fear. She turned, her heart fluttering with hope as Lisa rushed into her arms. They collapsed in a breathless embrace, relief washing over them like a cleansing wave. "You made it! You actually made it!" Panic flared within Sarah again, memories flooding back in torrents. "But Josh! And the others, they're still trapped." Lisa shook her head, determination etching her features. "We'll find a way to help them. They're not gone. We can't let that darkness claim them." Nodding, Sarah's resolve thundered. This was their chance, a chance to bring the truth to light, to save those still ensnared in that dreadful hunger. Standing together, they faced the shadows that lingered just beyond the park boundaries. The sun inched higher, casting a luminescent glow that banished some of the darkness, but Sarah knew that it wouldn't take long for the night to creep back in. We need to gather everyone, she said, a fierce light igniting within her. We can expose this, bring people together. Make them see what's been hidden. Lisa's eyes darkened with understanding. We can't just leave it. If we can convince the others, maybe they can remember. They spent the morning rallying townsfolk. Each familiar face carried their unaddressed fears. It's a story too important to ignore, Sarah urged, her voice strong. She watched them absorb her words, understood their skepticism, but they needed to hear this. We've seen the darkness. Lisa chimed in, her passion infectious. Josh and the others were lost because they thought they had nowhere else to go. But we can bring them back. We just need to believe in each other. Slowly, the community gathered, murmurs of disbelief and fears shifting into resolve. It was a powerful sight, and the sun blazed overhead, casting a glow of warmth and trust. Then, as the sun dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows over the park, they made their way to the Wendy's. This time, they entered as a united front, hearts pounding together with a shared purpose. The air felt electric, thick with anticipation. They were ready to confront whatever lay beyond. Together! Sarah shouted as they stepped over the threshold, bravely entering the light-shattered darkness ahead. The shadows whispered, a warning to stay back, but the strength of the community drowned out their voices. Through the chaotic energy swirled hope and the light of camaraderie. With hearts united, they squared their shoulders against the uncertain darkness. No longer was Sarah alone. They were here for each other, ready to reclaim their friends and uncover the truth buried in the shadows. As they pressed deeper into the darkened restaurant, ready to face the horrors within, Sarah felt a strange peace wash over her. They were stronger together, and with that strength, they would uncover the truth. Whatever awaited them, they would face it as one. And then they stepped into the heart of darkness together. Now, you need to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and let us be honest, who doesn't want a little more good horror in their feed? Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories, and what you think will happen next. And for crying out loud, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to show your support. True fans understand the power of engagement.